Hey dude, what's up? This is Miko from ML Sound Lab, and today I want to talk about the new ML Greatest Hits Cap Pack. It's actually a Black Friday offering, but we're offering it with Fractal Audio Systems throughout November and maybe even December, but after that the sale goes out, so please hurry with your purchase. But first, let's see what it sounds like. Cheers guys, bye. Okay, let's dive into this Greatest Hits Cap Pack, and I'm gonna be going through the IRs in reverse. So this is the very last IR in the collection, and it's the USA Trad, meaning the Mesa traditional 4x12 cabinet. So all of you Petrucci fans out there, this is the one you want to use. I kind of have this 2C plus type of rhythm sound here going on, so you'll hear what it sounds like in context. So let's hear what it sounds like. So all of that Petrucci type thing you can get out of this IR. The next IR, okay, and the USA Gent is obviously one IR from the collection that we made with Misha Mansour from Periphery, and a little bird told me that they are trying this out with the Zilla pack and blending those two together for the Periphery 4 sound. So So it's a lot more gentler and modern. It's a really nice sound. Nothing wrong with that. That alone would be enough. But we also have one IR from the USA Bulb Cap Pack, and this is the opposite end of the spectrum. This Mesa 4x12 cabinet is actually the oldest and most vintage sounding one that I've ever had at the studio, and it's very rounded. It works with just about anything. It can do vintage, it can do modern, it can do Marshall Plexi, it can do Mesa Dual Rectifier. It's all over the place. Let's hear what it sounds like. I mean, you can rock with that sound forever, and if you didn't know, this IR is from the Cap Pack 13, and that's actually the Cap Pack that Periphery used for Periphery 3 Select Difficulty. So once again, this is one of the best IRs in the world, maybe. Let's jump to the next option. Okay, Miko's cab. I'm Miko, just in case you didn't know. This is something completely new. You've never had this in any Cap Pack, but this is my personal cabinet. I've never released this IR anywhere. It's also a Mesa cabinet, but this is something that is very special to me personally. For me, this is the best sound I've ever had out of any Mesa cabinet. You can have it as part of this Cap Pack alone, so if you're interested in this, maybe you need to get this pack. So this is what it sounds like. I almost know how to play that song. But anyways, the sound is awesome. You need to check this out. Okay, the next IR. Okay, this is a Wagner 4x12, and this is actually the only cat pack that I've ever made that has the Chinese V30s in it, and that's why this is actually here. It sounds a lot different than most of those 4x12 caps, so let's just hear what it sounds like. So obviously it sounds pretty good, but I feel like maybe the Mark 4 or 2C Plus sound that I have here is not the best match for that. Let's try a Friedman. And just because usually with these packs, if you just use the default settings on the Friedman, it'll sound really good. So back to using the Wagner 4x12. And yeah, it's more like this amp sim is meant for this IR, and I'm actually gonna be using the Friedman for the rest of the video, hopefully. The way I create IRs is that they're really balanced, and some amps like the Friedman are super balanced as well, so they are kind of a perfect match together. Once again, this Wagner 4x12 has gone without a lot of notice, but I feel like it's really good. And it has this amazing cuts in the high mids that most packs don't have. It's really good in the mix. Maybe when you're playing it alone, you don't realize how good it sounds in the mix. But let's see, the next pack. DZ. So this is actually mixing a V30 and a K100, and it's a diesel 4x12 cabinet, front loaded. The V30s are actually English made, but they are the 60 watt version, and what else, 16 ohm versions as well. So they are really, how should I say, they are a really interesting match. The K100 alone is not very pleasant sounding, to be honest, but when you blend it with a V30, it's almost kind of like the SM57 with an MD421. The MD421 on its own is kind of like a WTF type thing, but you know, when you blend them together, you get more fatness, more cuts, more everything. So let's just hear what it sounds like. Enough mumbling. This is actually a really good sound. If you don't know bands that use diesel, Muse is the first one that comes to my mind. Muse, not sure if you know, it's probably the best modern rock bands in my opinion. But you know, this is a really cool, modern, kind of polished, perfect sound. And obviously it's really good for metal as well, so I'll just boost the drive on the Friedman. Again, this is a really nice sound. And all of these IRs that I chose for this pack are really good. I mean, if you get this pack and you're not happy, then maybe you should not be using my IRs at all. I mean, this is like 100% what I'm all about. Citrus, and that's the orange 4x12. Just for the sake of having citrus here, let's try, let's try the Rock Reverb 50. And I've actually owned this amp in real life as well, so there are a few tweaks that I like to do. This is kind of, might look crazy, but this is what it is. And the real amp doesn't have a presence control, so don't touch that. So this is kind of an orange sound. So if you're not familiar with the orange sound, I'll quickly kind of explain it. It's kind of similar to a 5150 maybe, but it's more of a fuzzy type sound, like a fuzz pedal. The more you drive it, the more it kind of becomes like a fuzz, and it has the best kind of harmonic. How do I even explain this? If you play two notes that don't really work together, it'll do this kind of a magical thing, like, let me demonstrate. It'll start to flap like that, you know? So it's definitely not one of those super tight metal amplifiers, but it's more of a fuzz, and you know, that harmonic character. It takes care of everyone hearing every note that you play, but it kind of requires you to be kind of a clean player. If you do something wrong, it's very unforgiving, which is something that I really like, but obviously it's not for everyone. Let's jump to the next IR. Brit TV. This is actually the second cap pack that I ever made, and let's just use an 800 for this. It's the 90s Greenbacks, so they are a really good speaker actually, and this is probably one of the best modern Marshall IRs in this pack. So let's just play something Marshall-y. So as you saw, I didn't tweak the amp sim at all. It's all default, and this IR, and you know, it sounds just like a real amplifier. I cannot emphasize enough how good these IRs are. And this is the other end of the spectrum. This is the most vintage sounding Marshall cap that I've made. This is actually a pre-Rolla 75. Something that you don't get in this cap pack is the ML Legends pack. That's all pre-Rollas that was just released. It's just so new that it's really hard to put that in the greatest hits. But if you like this sound, but you want more of a modern pre-Rolla sound, definitely check out that pack as well. But this is what this sounds like. And the magic here is, once again, that I didn't touch the amp at all. The IR is doing all of the heavy lifting. And the way I do IRs is that the IR kind of takes care of everything. Obviously, you can tweak it to be better and more bright and everything like that, but you know, you get so far with just the right IR. The Fortis pack, so the notorious Guns N' Roses pack, you'll hear how bright the Marshall Vintage speaker is. So if you don't know, the Marshall Vintage speaker is not exactly the same thing as a Vintage 30. This is the Marshall Spec Vintage 30, and they just call it Vintage. You know, the Guns N' Roses sound essentially is this sound. So let me try and sound like Slash, or why not Richard even. So I hope you probably kind of recognize that sound, because it's so much like the Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction sound. We actually kind of reverse engineered that sound, looking at some stems from the original tracks, and I found pretty much the same kind of mic positions for this pack. And in my opinion, this IR that's in here is just ridiculous how close it gets to, you know, the real thing. Such a fun IR. Let's jump to the next one. Okay, the Brit Cream is the unsung hero. It's from the Brit Collection 2 and the Greenback option, and I feel like that cap pack was so big that most people got lost. And truth be told, some of the best IRs I've ever made are in that pack, so I just wanted to include this one here because this is a perfect IR. Just take a listen to what it sounds like. So, kind of a short history lesson here is that the Greenback is a speaker that came after the Greenback. So, this is an original Greenback from the 70s. Very unique sound, but actually a really pleasant sound and almost closer to a Vintage 30 than anything, if you ask me. But it's a really nice sound, so creamy. I hate to use that same term, but it actually is creamy. Just listen to that high end. Even if I try to play something nasty, it doesn't sound nasty. So that's why that IR is really good. Angle, being the Engel 4x12, also kind of an unsung hero. It's probably the least used cabinet from the packs that me and Misha have made. It's really mean sounding, like really mean. I'm actually just gonna jump into maybe using something like an Engel then. Severe. I'll just give you a warning that I've never tried this amp sim before, so let's see what it sounds like. Okay, so I feel like maybe do this and this. It sounds pretty chancy to me, and obviously Misha was using Engel and Orange before he started using the Fractal. So that was kind of the reason why we made this pack. But as you can hear, that actually sounds pretty good. Okay, 5153. So this kind of short trivia type thing, but the Celestion EVH speaker is the exact same spec as the Heritage G12, the 20-watt version. So obviously this is kind of Celestion's take on the real vintage Greenback speaker. So since we're here, why not use the 5153, because you know that amp sim is awesome and we'll get some real nice sound. So this is essentially the EVH sound, and default settings on the amp as always. Once again, a completely different type of sound. That sounds really good and balanced and nice. How can you not love that? Okay, a bass cabinet. I switched to a bass quite quickly here. And this is a precision Fender bass. This is gonna be a little bit different. I'm not really a huge fan of these bass amps in real life either. I mean, I use DI bass most of the time. But let's just maybe add a compressor here. Maybe it'll help us out a little bit. You know, with bass you want some of that. So this is a single mic IR actually from the USA Bass collection, because I feel like mixing IRs with bass is not the best idea. It kind of takes away from the clarity, and you want a really clear bass sound. So usually I just use one mic, like an MD421 or Royer. Those really work nicely with bass. So this is kind of what the USA Bass sounds like. And if you don't know what this is the Mesa Powerhouse cabinet. It's actually a 4x10 with a 1x15 and tweeters and all the bells and whistles. Okay, I'll play something without a pick. Okay, sorry if you're a guitar player and you don't care about this. So this is the Ampeg, and I'll just play the same thing so you kind of hear the difference. They're pretty different sounding. For me, this Ampeg pack was really awesome. The Mesa bass cab is more of a modern sound, but I really like this vintage, low mid emphasized Ampeg sound. And this is just one MD421 IR actually, and it just sounds so good for bass and in the mix and, you know, everything. So this is what I use on most of my productions. Okay, back to guitars. I switched the amp to a Friedman HPE, and I'm back to my PRS CE24 guitar. And this is the Zilla IR from the Zilla pack, and this is the Zilla flattest IR. And the reason I wanted to have this here is that it's being used by so many incredible guitar players, but at the same time it's blending many of the different speakers in the Zilla pack. So you're not just getting one speaker, you're getting quite many of them. I think 3 or 4 different speakers are being mixed here. So this is what it sounds like. A really nice modern sound that cuts through and has a fat low end. Even though it's 2x12, it's got a huge low end. And this is the Mesa 2x12. And this is kind of, if you can imagine Linkin Park from the new metal days. So this is kind of that kind of a sound. The high end is like super quickly rolled out after 4K. And it's naturally that way. It's not being processed in any way. It just sounds exactly like that. So it's kind of a Linkin Park thing. Let's play a Linkin Park riff maybe. I need to drop it down. Puts a smile on my face because I remember as a kid really listening to those riffs a lot. Okay, so now we're getting into the vintage Fender type sounds, and let me just see if we have the double warp here. Okay, silver face maybe. And these vintage Fender IRs they're actually really dark if you use a lot of gain. The whole point here is that you can use these bright amps with really bright guitars and they will sound pretty pleasant. So let's just see what this sounds like. So this is completely from a different planet, but it's a really nice. Let's try some humbuckers. And this is from the 60s, a Fender from the 60s. Just to be clear, most people will not get this amplifier even if they wanted to. It's a really nice sound. You can actually drive this also. So it can make your X-Effects sound like a completely different type of unit. It just makes everything super vintage. Class A. Oh man, this IR. I personally use for some Foo Fighters sounds like. I got another confession to make. I just had to do that. Sorry. My worst imitation ever. Citrus 2x12. Oh man. Yeah, let's go back to the orange sound here. Oh man. And the reason I have this here is because this is very good. This IR is actually just as fat as many 4x12 Mesa IRs that I have in this pack. It's just with that orange flavor, so it's once again a little bit more fuzzy sounding and not as tight, but really singing with the leads. And you know, if I ever had to buy one 2x12 cabinet, it would probably be an orange or a Zilla, but you know, orange, it's just, I mean, it's almost better in this 2x12 format, but the 4x12 is really good as well. Okay, let's jump to the next IR. Okay, the Tweed. This is the darkest IR in this pack. Really dark. Let's see if we have an amp sim called Tweed. We do. Many of them actually. So this is not really meant to be a super clean type thing. It's really vintage and nice, and it's just so unique that I needed to have it as a part of this pack, just so you hear the power of the IRs. And if you drive the amp all the way up, it's just so awesome. And it's just incredible how big and full these vintage small amplifiers and combos can sound when in comparison something like the Sir, which is a V30 in a 1x12, it's really bright in comparison. But it's more modern. As you can hear, it's kind of more in line with, you know, the kind of sounds that you hear these days. And this Sir one is here actually because it's really good, and I also wanted to have a modern 1x12 option here. I usually shoot 4x12s because I just like the idea of having big boxes inside of this small digital box. But obviously if you want more cuts and more brightness, it's really cool to have a smaller cabinet option and also blend this in with a 4x12 if you ever feel like you need more treble, because using a treble knob on the amp does different types of things. This kind of treble is more of it doesn't change your sound, it's more of an EQ type thing. Okay, let's just use a different amp with this. Let's go with the Friedman because I just love the damn Friedmans. And a 1x12 will be super tight like this. So that kind of sums up all the sounds you can get out of this cap pack. Okay, thank you for watching the video, and if you like the sounds, there's a button like this down there. Go click it. And I just want to remind you guys that this is a sale offering that will be going out by the end of the year. So if you really like these sounds, maybe go get them straight away. Thank you, and stay tuned. Bye bye.